yeah, I just had two basic questions about the project.
Sure.
One, a quick technical question. If I make like a block, a shadow block, and then I want to cut out a shape like in the center of it, right? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, I'm really going to get into that next week, but just real quick, which is just kind of a preview to next week.
Could you explain how to use masks?
Again, we're jumping ahead, but it's fine. And let's say I want to go the same thing. And I can do this. I should go do it with either or. Again, I'm going to use this, just this little part of the bass player guy. By the way, when I make a shape, if I hold down the space bar, I can move that shape around. Now, again, this has to be on top. And then I'm going to select both. Then I'm going to go right here to object where our path stuff was yesterday and go clipping mask and go make. And it'll use that top shape as my mask. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thanks.
Which is a very handy thing. And by the way, these are real easy because you just go, and I'm going to get into this, okay? So don't worry about it. But you can kind of go clipping mask make. And then if I've made one, let's go back to it. If I've made one, here's another thing you can do. Go back to your black arrow tool, double click it. And now I double clicked it so it's clicked on the content. So if I need to readjust it, I can readjust it and just click out of it. And it's now the whole thing will move around again. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And also, if I need to get rid of it, I can just go back to object, back to clipping mask and go release. I'm going to make a new shape. I've got 3 shapes here. I'm going to select all of them. Go up to clipping mask, make. And see how it picked one? You guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
But if I go here, I'm going to go back to my preview mode. Select these 3. They got to be on top. Remember that. Actually, I don't want this one touching. This one, this one. Go back to out of preview mode. But now if I go right where that clipping mask was and I go compound path and I go make a compound path, now when I do my clipping mask, it will use all 3 as your mask. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this gradient tool right here. So I'm going to make a shape. Let's make our star shape again. First thing I'm going to do is lock off this layer. I'll make a new layer. And then I'm going to go make a shape. And the way I usually start a gradient is I do this. I go to swatches, and I'm going to grab this right here. There's a default gradient swatch right there. And it just puts a gradient in there. That's really the only purpose of it. And then I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to go to my gradient tool, and it gives me my, whatever they call it, my attenuator, or what do you want to call it. And here's really all you got to remember about this. I can make more of these by just going option drag or whatever I want to do. And then I can adjust these where they are. But another thing I could do, and I'm going to do it right here. When I double click this, you see I've got the option of going to my swatches, which is not showing now because they weren't listed. So, but for this, it won't matter. Or I can adjust it here. But I also have this option up here. Once I have this point selected, my opacity. So I'm going to go 0. So you can see what it does. It literally has the gradient just fade out to 0. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to make a shape. I'm going to go all the way to the top. And I would do this under the black line. I just can't because this is a JPEG. I would not do this over the black line. So now you can see I've got a shape. And normally I would just go right here and put my gradient in it, but it's already there. And then I'm going to go to my gradient tool. I'm going to take my attenuator and go, I want it to sort of do like about like that. And then I've got white up here, and I'm going to drag this inside the shape. There's the edge of the shape, and I'm going to drag this one inside the shape. And you'll see why here in a minute. And I'm going to, this one's white. I'm going to double click this one and make this one white. Right there. And then I'm going to click and drag this one, option drag it, and put a center one. And now I'm going to double click this one, go to 0, double click this one, and go to 0. And then let's see what we got. So now we're starting to get this gradient that rolls over the shape. Does that make sense?
Way cool.
Hmm?
I said way cool.
Yeah, it is cool. So, but what I can also do is I can come back here, hit my gradient again and go, well, I don't want it going all the way to the top. I want it concentrated right there. And then if I said this isn't a really shiny surface, I could double click this one and maybe drop the opacity on that to 60%. So it's not quite so screaming if I don't want that. And now I just get a nice rolling. Now here's the other thing I can do. It's the same thing basically, but if I wanted to put, it wouldn't be here, but I'm going to put one here anyway. I'm going to put one here. So I could do the same thing here and have that roll across the, you know, a section like that. And then I could say maybe this section is more specular. So I come in here and go, let's go back up to, oops, go back up to like 90 and get more specularity in there. And I can start to do things like that. Now you also have some tools in here if I wanted to do this. I don't know if I want to do like that, but let's see. I could go here and go Gaussian blur. Okay, so what I would do here now, this all makes sense, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Now, what I might do if I want to do a little specularity, I could do it either like something. Okay, so let's look at this. I might go, might grab my, what do you call it? My star thing again. I'm going to click here. I'm going to give it 9 points. So now I've got this 9-point star. I'm going to fill it with white. And I'm going to make it a little off kilter. I'm going to get my white arrow tool, pull it. Again, just make it a little bit irregular. This will be a little more cartoony version. I could also just do this with a little point source of light, which I'll show you here in a second. You know, and I could do something like that for specularity, or I could just come in here with a real simple idea. Put a little point source there. It doesn't have to be a star shape. It could just be a real simple little ding, little specularity thing. Right where it's the light hottest. That one you can't really see it. And that would be the last part of this thing that I would do.
You had mentioned something about a ground shadow.
So because I created this base layer here, right here, remember that? My original layer? Yeah. Let me unlock this layer. Let's get rid of that. Because I created that base layer, I'm gonna hold Option and drag this out. I created that shape, right? And this is a copy of it. Now, if I take this and I put it, I'm gonna fill it with gray for this. Fill it with that. If I take that now, put it back behind there. Now here's another little thing. I'm gonna go up to Object. Let me get rid of this. Hang on. I'm gonna go up to Object. In the same place where you have your group and ungroup, you have Arrange. Now I'm going to say send to backward, send to the back, not backward, send to back. Now it's sitting way in the back. Now I'm just going to grab this little handle pull it down, and now I got a little round shadow for it. That feels like it's mirroring the shape. Does that make sense? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks.